Hello everyone, for today's video we are going to be covering some Master Duel. Yes, I got into the game. It is an amazing game for me. Now the deck that I will be showing off in today's video is Dragonmaids, which by far is my favorite archetype. If you guys like my content, feel free to like and subscribe if you are not already. And also drop a comment down below of your favorite archetype. Now let's get straight into the deck. I'm running 3 copies of Effect Veiler, extremely good hand trap. Allows me to negate an effect monster's effect on their turn. Really good effect. Wouldn't want to trade it for anything because it's on their turn and this is a going first deck. Black Metal Dragon is an amazing extender. Allows me to get into Darkness Metal Dragon, and I can choose to either go into Heretic, or if I have a Dragonmaid card in hand or graveyard, I can also go into Sheu. And because of that, it acts as an extreme extender for the Dragonmaid combos. Running 3 copies of Maxx. In my opinion, Maxx has 3 different types of effects that it will have, and I'm in love with all of them, honestly. The first effect is I throw Maxx, you negate it. Hopefully that means that we're going to be stagnant and that neither of us will have card advantage. Second effect, I throw Maxx and special summons go through. I get card advantage. Should work in my favor. Third effect, I activate Maxx, you continue that special summon, and then you set pass. You don't have a board advantage, most likely. So, any of those effects result in a net positive for me, and because of that, there's no reason for me to not want 3 of in this deck. I'm running 1 copy of Nurse, really amazing extender. I will see Nurse almost every single game because of all the cycle cards that I have. And because of that, because Nurse will constantly be on the field, I don't see there to be a need to put more than 1 on the field or deck. I'm running 2 copies of Ash, amazing card. Only reason I'm not running 3 is because I don't want to brick with it. And I have something like Fortune Tune I could use if I really needed more Ashes throughout the game. But honestly, my goal with Ash is to kind of just have it earlier on in the game. Maybe stop you from drawing, maybe stop you from adding a card from deck to hand, sending a graveyard. Just stopping one of those effects helps me later on in the game. I am running 3 Parlors. It is an amazing extender. I could 1-card combo into Heretic using Tidying, send Tidy to the graveyard, link 1 into Heretic. Best case scenario, I'm going to have Sheu and I'm going to have a board made because Parlor. It's an amazing card. And then Chamber, I'm running at 3 because I can do the same thing, except for instead of using Tidying, I use Hospitality. Add Hospitality to hand, link 1 into Heretic, or best case scenario, I'm going to have Sheu, a board, and Tidying set, so I can activate its secondary effect. Overall, both of these cards are really great staples for the Dragonmaid deck. They flow perfectly. I'm running 1 Earnest. Because of how frequently I get Nurse into the field, it means that Earnest is going to come into the field just as frequently. It's an amazing card that allows me to maybe get that extra summon off, and also because it's a high-level Dragonmaid, it is one of the cards that is going to get me Sheu consistently. And because of that, it's really hard for me to want more than 1 of that card because of how frequently I am going to have that card. I only need 1, and so that's why it's only at 1 copy. I'm running 1 copy of Lopar because it acts as an effect veiler for my turn. There's no reason for me to not want that effect. And on top of that, it also acts as a high-level Dragonmaid, gets me into Sheu. And because I'm running 3 copies of Parlor and 3 copies of Chamber, I will almost always be able to get these high-level dragons onto the field so I can activate their effects, or so that I can use Sheu. Double effects, double benefit. It really works in your favor running these high-level Dragonmaids. I am running 1 copy of Darkness Metal. This is an amazing card. Worst case scenario, because of Metal Dragon, this card is going to get me into Heretic. Best case scenario, it's going to get me into Sheu. It's an amazing card, great extender, allows me to get an extra summon off that turn, so it is an amazing card to have at 1. I am running 1 copy of Nibiru. An amazing one of, I don't like bricking with it, so I run it at 1. However, it is an amazing card to get off. Worst case scenario, I focus on thinning out my deck so I can access that card, but it is very rare that I need a Nibiru. So for the most part, if I have it in hand, best case scenario, I wipe the board. Worst case scenario, you didn't put out something strong enough where I felt I needed to wipe the board or didn't get enough summons off to wipe the board. Very similarly to Maxx, there's no real net negative for me. It's all net positive having a Nibiru in hand. I'm running Raigeki at 1. Even if it only destroys a couple of cards because their cards can't be destroyed by any effect or unaffected by, I'm okay with that. I can take out a certain number of cards, but Raigeki is more or less used to chip away at their board, hopefully break it, but even if it only takes out 1 or 2 monsters, I'm content with that trade-off. I'm running 2 copies of Hospitality. It is an extremely easy card to cycle through with Chamber, and very similarly to Ash, I just don't like bricking with it. I would run that 3rd copy, but it can only be used once per turn. I'd rather use it once on my turn and once the turn after that, but if I run any more copies than that and I pick up all 3 copies, it's a bricking card, especially if I don't have a Dragonmaid card in hand. So it's a really great 2 of, but I would not use a 3rd. I'm running 2 copies of Changeover. This isn't because you need 2 copies of Changeover in order to get summons off. It is very easy to get Changeover into your hand or in the graveyard and then activate it to get it back into hand. However, I just don't want to lose Changeover and then lose access to my fusion summons. So I'm running 2 copies just in case somebody has a way to face down banish or banish Changeover. It's just nice to know I have a backup so I can get to my boss card if I need it. Running 3 copies of Prosperity. An extremely good extender for the deck. I will only ever really use 2 copies of Prosperity in a game, but I will take bricking later in the game over bricking earlier in the game any day. So it is amazing to know that if I pull this card early on, it at best case scenario is going to be an anti-brick, and at worst case scenario is going to take out something like an Ash. So I'm fine with whatever result happens from it. I almost think of it kind of like a hand trap, where I don't mind if this goes through, but if it does go through, it's going to give me an extremely good effect. So it puts my opponent in a rough position. I'm running 3 copies of Guard Dragon. Amazing monster reborn for the deck. I wouldn't trade it for anything, especially because Hierodic can send it back to hand and allow you to reactivate its summon effect. It is an amazing card to have. I'm running 3 copies of Tidying. Due to Parlor and Chambers effects that have so many benefits for this card, I can't deny wanting to have this at 3. It is an amazing card. I'm running 1 copy of Solemn. It is almost an Omni Negate. Its biggest weakness is something like monster effects, but besides that, it is an amazing card to counter anything that's on the field, except for like an access code talker, but I would never let it build up to that point. It also can work around things like Forbidden Droplet. If I have a Tidying, it can actually Tidying then Forbidden. I could do some really weird combos with it. I love Solemn Judgment, and then Strike is a really good card. It works around cards like Ash, Effect Veiler, anything that I would usually use. My opponent can't really use those types of cards against me if I have Strike on the field, as well as for the last card in the deck, I am running Downtime. It is very rare that I will need this card, like Nibiru, but going against cards that have a heavy back row, it is really good at removing those cards back to back. Once at the end phase of your turn, and then back on my turn. At the beginning of my turn, I remove those cards. So it's a -2 for my opponent, and it's a net gain for me because it will activate other card effects like Hierodic or Tidying or House Dragonmaid. There's so many benefits to having that form of removal. I am running 3 copies of House Dragonmaid. House is a boss monster. I usually won't need those 3 copies, but part of the reason why I'm running 3 of a lot of these cards is because of Prosperity. House gets cycled in through Sheu, and that's the main reason why I have House. However, the main use of this card is actually my card, Nibiru, so I can remove my opponent's Nibiru token and then chain into my combo. I'm running 3 copies of Sheu. Again, I don't need those 3 copies. However, Prosperity, I thin out those parts of the deck. Sheu is an Omni Negate, the boss monster. It's a really good card, and combined with our other negates and forms of removal, it is a very good card to have on the field. However, I try to use that card last if I can. Try to use every other form of removal and negate, and then use Sheu at the end. really good boss monster. Really solidifies the deck. I have Five-Headed Dragon in there, which might seem like kind of a weird pick, but I do have it at 1. If somebody puts me in a position where they have a card that just has naturally high power, and I don't really want to use House, it's a situation where maybe I have a lot of Dragonmaids or hand or something, it's a really easy way for me to cycle those cards to the graveyard to then activate effects like Guard Dragon or resummon them onto the field with Hospitality, Tidying. It's just a really good card to have at a 1 of. Very rare that I will need it though. I'm running 1 copy of Fortune Tune. This is an anti-burn / anti-deck out. Very rare that I use this card, but if somebody's running like a Magic Cylinder burn style deck or anything that involves deck out, it's a nice card to have at 1 of because it cycles itself. And then if I'm going up against something like, say, Crooked Crook, Downward Magician is a good workaround to that because it does piercing damage. So those are some really nice 1 ofs. I have Pixie and Striker. I'm going to almost include these as 1, but Pixie I have at a 1 of. It's just a link 1 into Hierarchic, links 2. A couple different cards that use it. Striker does the same thing. It's a link 1 into link 2 Hierarchic. That's the main reason why I use it. Hierarchic is going to be our main cycling card. It is pop 1. I could use it to remove one of my cards like Guard Dragon. I could use it to remove a card like Nibiru, add it back to hand. I could use it to send my dragons back to hand to activate cards like House Dragonmaid. It ties perfectly into the deck, and at the end of that, it has a secondary effect that works around cards like Raigeki. Like, if my opponent were to Raigeki, I could activate this card in response, and then after Raigeki is done chaining, I could special summon a dragon monster from my deck. So it is an extremely good card. Definitely a 3 of, I would say, is mandatory for this deck just because it is the card that cycles my entire deck. It's an amazing card. And yeah, that's it for the extra deck. Okay, now I'm going to be taking you guys to the end part of the video. So this is going to be my Dragonmaids versus an Eldritch deck, and it kind of showcases a lot of like the combos and everything that I like to do. It was definitely the longest Eldritch game I've ever had, and probably the best Eldritch player I've gone against. I don't know why he had certain cards, but I can't deny that they worked against me. So yeah, we're going to get straight into the matchup. So this concludes the video. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, comment down below, maybe share with somebody who would be interested in this. It takes a lot of work to do these kinds of videos, but I really do enjoy doing it. See you on the next one. Peace.